What's up out there, everybody? Welcome back to Friday Night Rentals, where the popcorn's hot, the neon open signs glowing, and it's always a good time to crack open another stack of VHS gems from the video store era. This week we've got everything from underdog comedies and oddball sci-fi to buddy cop mayhem and teen adventures and the kind of only in the 80s experiments that made late night rentals legendary. So grab your membership card, get your favorite drink, and get comfortable because we're about to revisit the video store era. In Mr. Mom from 1983, Michael Keaton would ditch the corporate world for chaos in the kitchen after a layoff forces him into stay-at-home dad duty with Terry Garr balancing the other side of the household. This comedy turns diapers, laundry, and exploding appliances into his toughest job ever. Now, back in the early 80s, long before the world saw Michael Keaton as Batman or even Beetlejuice, we got him as a frazzled suburban dad in Mr. Mom, and let me tell you, it's really one of his funniest roles. The setup is simple but brilliant. Keaton's Jack Butler loses his job, and suddenly the guy who once lived for corporate meetings and deadlines has to face a completely new battlefield. Laundry piles, vacuum cleaners, and diaper disasters. It's the classic fish out of water comedy, and Keaton nails it with his mix of charm and manic energy. But to me, what makes Mr. Mom so endearing is how it flips gender roles of the times and really uses it to generate some genuine humor and not just as a gimmick. Because in 1983, the idea of a dad staying at home with the kids was almost radical, and the movie leans into it perfectly with plenty of slapstick humor but also plenty of heart. Pairing Keaton and Terry Garr as his hardworking wife is just really able to keep the whole thing grounded. Plus, who could forget moments like the washing machine flooding the house or Jack trying to navigate the supermarket with a cart full of chaos.
I think these are on special.
Doesn't matter. Sorry,
Let me check. Are these Kotex Maxi Pads on special?
Never mind, sorry.
It wasn't just a box office success. Mr. Mom became one of those VHS staples that just lived in every family's movie cabinet. It may not be a flashy cult film, but it's just comfort food for anyone who remembers when comedies could be silly, sweet, and just relatable enough to hit home without needing much more of that. My older family members loved this movie when I was a kid, and I actually enjoyed watching it with them. Now, if Michael Keaton could juggle chaos at home, Goldie Hawn would prove that she could handle chaos on the gridiron just as well in this next rental classic. 1986's Wildcats gives us Goldie Hawn as a football coach, determined to prove that she can lead the rowdiest team in town to victory with a young Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson suiting up. This scrappy sports comedy is all fumbles, laughs, with a little bit of Friday Night Lights. Now, if you want a quintessential underdog sports comedy, Wildcats is where you go. Goldie Hawn takes the whistle in this one, playing a determined coach who shocks everyone by taking charge of an inner-city high school football team. It's clearly not the most original setup. You've got the misfit players, the grumpy administrators, and the rivalries, but Goldie Hawn's energy is what makes this movie. She's just plucky, she's charming, she's tough and funny, all in equal measure, and really she sells the idea that she could whip this ragtag crew of players into shape. But where the movie gets really fun is it was also the film debut for both Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson, and really seeing them side by side in their very early days before White Men Can't Jump or all the later fame they would achieve really does deliver a fun nostalgia blast that's worth alone watching this movie. The football scenes, they are scrappy and energetic, and the comedy really is able to keep the pace moving, even if some of the 80s cliches are definitely baked right in. Wildcats didn't exactly break box office records, but it did become one of those Friday night cable or rental staples. It really fits right in with the era's love of sports comedies where the real victories always happen off the field. It's scruffy, it's funny, and by the end you'll probably be humming that "It's the Sport of Kings, better than diamond rings" rap, whether you want to or not. Now, let's go from the football field to the computer lab for this next movie where love gets tangled in wires, keyboards, and an awkward AI crush. Before smartphones ruled our lives, there was Electric Dreams from 1984, a quirky little romance comedy about a man, his computer, and the girl next door, starring Lenny Von Dolen and Virginia Madsen. It's a love triangle where the third wheel just so happens to be a jealous PC named Edgar. Now, there are only in the 80s movies, and then there's Electric Dreams. It's a movie that asks, what if your computer fell in love with your girlfriend? It stars Lenny Von Dolen as a shy architect and Virginia Madsen as the cellist next door and a jealous computer named Edgar. It's a love triangle that's really straight out of the digital dark ages, long before smartphones could nag us or Alexa could snoop on us. Electric Dreams was an early warning that technology might get a little bit too attached.
Oh, listen, I don't know anything about computers.
Nobody does. But don't you want one for when you do find out?
The film mixes romance, comedy, and a heavy dose of synth pop into something uniquely charming. Yes, the premise is bonkers, but that's the appeal. This was the 80s where music montages could really solve anything and machines had more personality than most sitcom characters. Virginia Madsen glows, Von Dolen is perfectly awkward, and Edgar, the computer, somehow steals the show, making you almost sympathize with his heartbreak. Almost. But what really makes Electric Dreams stand out is just its vibe overall. The nostalgic visuals, the electronic soundtrack, just all blended with the goofy charm and the techno paranoia just make this movie a true time capsule. It certainly did not become a mainstream hit, but it does have a devoted cult following, and watching it now kind of feels like you're stepping into a dream of what someone in the 80s thought the future might look like. But if you think A Computer in Love was strange, wait until you meet a wisecracking robot who just wants to stay alive in this next rental gem. In Short Circuit from 1986, Ali Sheedy and Steve Guttenberg would team up with Johnny Five, a wisecracking robot who escapes the military after discovering he's alive. With lasers, laughs, and a heart bigger than its hard drive, this would become peak 80s family fun. If there was ever an 80s movie that proved robots could be funny, adorable, and weirdly relatable, it has to be Short Circuit, a movie that took the E.T. template and just ran in its own direction with it. It stars Ali Sheedy, Steve Guttenberg, and Fisher Stevens in some very questionable casting choices for 21st century standards at least, but the real star here is hands down Johnny Five, a military robot who gets zapped with lightning and suddenly becomes sentient. With wide-eyed wonder and a knack for wisecracks, he escapes his creators and of course sets off to discover life, love, and maybe some robot booty, as well as a whole lot of input in a little fun robot coming-of-age story. The movie was pure VHS gold. Johnny Five wasn't just a special effect, he was a full-on character packed with heart and humor and charm. The scenes of him reading through piles of books or mimicking TV shows or joyfully dancing around are still just ridiculously charming. And then of course there's the military trying to shut him down, adding just enough chase and tension to keep things moving between all the laughs. What's really wild though is how much of a pop culture footprint Johnny Five would leave. Kids adored him, including myself. Catchphrases like "number 5 is alive" became playground staples, and the film's mix of sentiment and slapstick would cement it as one of the decade's family favorites. And watching it today, it's still hard not to root for this quirky little robot that just wanted to live and laugh and maybe fire a few lasers for good measure. Now, speaking of unlikely duos, next up is a movie that pairs an uptight Fed with a rule-breaking cop. It's a buddy action flick that's pretty much been forgotten over time. The Wild Pair from 1987 would throw Beau Bridges and Bubba Smith together as an oddball couple who team up to chase down some drug dealers. It's an action comedy packed with shootouts and car chases and plenty of cop banter. It's pretty much Lethal Weapon if you grabbed it off the shelf, maybe a few rows lower. If the 80s taught us anything, it's that every oddball duo deserved at least one buddy cop movie, and The Wild Pair is Exhibit A, starring Beau Bridges as an FBI agent and Bubba Smith as a tough narcotics cop. This one throws the two together to, of course, take down some drug lords as well as flash every step of the way. This one has Bridges bringing the straight man energy with charm, while Smith oozes that cool, tough guy charisma that only he can deliver by bringing plenty of intimidation, but also that same lovable charm he brought to the Police Academy movies. Now, is it groundbreaking? Far from it, but that's kind of part of the charm. It's like finding a forgotten gem in the video store action section. I remember stumbling onto this movie on cable as a kid, excited to see Hightower as a full-fledged cop. The shootouts are loud, the car chases are messy, and the dialogue lands somewhere between serious thriller and accidental comedy. So naturally, The Wild Pair never broke it big in theaters, but it became a cult rental for people who'd already seen Lethal Weapon like 10 times and wanted something new for a Friday night. It's scrappy and rough around the edges, and really the exact type of movie you'd pick up because the cover promised more explosions and action than the budget could actually deliver. And really, that's kind of the essence of the 80s buddy cop craze. It didn't need polish, just mismatched partners, a pile of bullets, and a VCR, sort of like this next rental classic that goes from mismatched cops to mismatched kids and a pint-sized buddy adventure full of big city danger and really endless 80s charm. In Big Shots from 1987, a suburban kid teams up with a street-smart hustler after tragedy strikes, leading them into a wild Chicago-set adventure starring Ricky Busker and Darius McCrary. It's part Stand By Me, part 48 Hours, and a buddy comedy drama that has action, heart, and plenty of 80s attitude. You know, Big Shots is really just one of those 80s movies that feels like someone threw a coming-of-age story and an action comedy into a blender. It follows a suburban kid played by Ricky Busker who runs away after losing his father, and he ends up teaming with a streetwise Chicago kid named Scam played by Darius McCrary, and together they stumble into gangsters, into some car chases, and a whole lot of danger, all while having a little fun and learning about friendship and growing up along the way. So, textbook 80s teen cinema. The charm of Big Shots is really found in that odd mix of tones. One minute it's heavy with loss and heart, the next minute it's zany and silly with kids outsmarting crooks, while still delivering that dash of after-school special. McCrary, who would later become famous on Family Matters, I think steals the show as the savvy street kid, while Busker plays comparable to him as the wide-eyed contrast perfectly. Naturally, critics didn't know what to make of it, and it was quickly dismissed, but on VHS and cable it did have a second life. It's the kind of movie kids rented because the cover looked cool and parents rented because it seemed family friendly enough, only to realize it had more grit than they expected. And looking back now, I think Big Shots is another one of those 80s time capsules. It's funny, awkward, heartfelt, and a little rough, all of which makes it memorable. But if you thought city kids had it tough, just wait until you see what happens when an alien crash lands in suburbia in this next movie. Mac and Me from 1988 tells the story of a wheelchair-bound boy who befriends a lost alien, but really, let's be honest, it's pretty much remembered as the infamous E.T. knockoff that turned itself into one giant Coke and McDonald's commercial, stitched together from a collection of recycled tropes and cliches, and you know what? It's still pretty awesome. Mac and Me, the movie that boldly asked, what if E.T. was made with way less money and way less subtlety, way more product placement, with a kid in a wheelchair? Story follows a young, of course, wheelchair-bound boy who befriends a stranded alien named Mac, which not so coincidentally stands for mysterious alien creature, and together they dodge government agents and try to reunite Mac with his family. It's heartwarming, right? Well, kind of. That was really the intention, of course. Sadly, what people really remember isn't the story, it's the shameless corporate tie-ins. This movie doesn't just feature Coke and McDonald's, it pretty much worships them. The infamous fast food dance party where Ronald McDonald himself shows up might be one of the most gloriously bizarre sequences in all of cinema. It's so over the top that it's just really crossed itself into cult status, with fans appreciating it for its unintentional comedy.
Communing with the earth spirits.
Welcome to California, bud.
But here's the thing, kids in the 80s still loved it. I know I did. I made my aunt drive me and my friend to the theater to see this movie. The alien design is weirdly endearing. The friendship moments do tug at the heart a little, and it delivered just enough of that E.T. magic knockoff to kind of earn a spot on the rental shelf. And today, I think Mac and Me has a second life as a guilty pleasure, the kind of movie you throw on for laughs and nostalgia rather than a deep or even interesting story. And really, that's kind of its true legacy. It's one of the strangest, most entertaining bad movies to ever hit VHS. Now, from suburban strangeness, we're going to urban grit. Our next stop is taking us to the rooftops, where breakdancing is survival. That's right, survival. From the director of West Side Story comes part one of our Jason Gedrick double feature tonight with Rooftops from 1989, a drama set in New York where kids dance, fight, and combat their way through survival. It's half urban musical, half street thriller. It's pure 80s cheese whiz with a perfect view from the fire escape. Now, Rooftops is just one of those movies that could only exist at the tail end of the 80s. It's a gritty teen drama that follows a group of homeless New York City kids who live on the rooftops, battle hardships, and fight in bizarre dance combat matches. That's right, you heard that correctly, street fighting as interpretive dance, only in the 80s and almost only from director Robert Wise. The plot follows 80s heartthrob Jason Gedrick as a street kid named T, caught between living on the city streets and, of course, dreaming of something bigger. And along the way, there are rival gangs, young love, and plenty of rooftop brooding. But really what makes it memorable isn't just a melodrama, which there is a surplus of. It's really just the surreal blend of styles. It's half urban musical, half crime drama, half teen coming of age story with dialogue that veers between heartfelt and unintentionally hilarious. Now, at the time, it didn't exactly light up the box office, but man, my friends' sisters or any female friends seemed like they were always watching this movie when it was on, and I'll admit it, as bad as it was, I enjoyed it. And like a lot of these movies, it found its audience on VHS with teens who were craving something edgier than a John Hughes movie. And watching it now, Rooftops is just a nostalgia-soaked time capsule of late 80s urban storytelling. It's earnest and strange and really way more entertaining than it probably should be. But if you're looking for a peak video store, what did I just rent energy, this movie is it. Now, while rooftop warriors fight in dance battles in this one, another hero who looks oddly familiar to the guy in this movie was ready to take flight literally by stealing a fighter jet in our next rental pick. 1986's Top Gun alternative Iron Eagle gives us Jason Gedrick again, this time as a teen who steals a fighter jet with the help of Louis Gossett Jr. to rescue his dad from enemy territory. It's loud and backed by a full rock soundtrack that makes it Top Gun's VHS cousin. Just a few months before Top Gun would dominate the skies and the box offices, Iron Eagle gave us the ultimate teenage wish fulfillment fantasy. Jason Gedrick as a kid who straight up steals a fighter jet to rescue his father from enemy territory. How does he do it off? With a little help from 80s cinema, Louis Gossett Jr., a killer mixtape, and 80s movie logic that doesn't sweat the details. All jokes aside though, what makes Iron Eagle so memorable is just its underdog energy. It doesn't have the sleek polish of Top Gun, but it makes up for it with heart and melodrama and rock anthems blasting out of the cockpit, and Gossett Jr. absolutely grounding the film with his commanding presence. For teens of the era, it was pure empowerment. If the adults won't save your dad, just grab some aviator glasses, fire up the jet, and get the job done yourself. The movie may not have been a critical darling, but it was a routine rental for me and my friends, and we would always watch it when it was on afternoon cables, which it seemed to be always playing on, and it would earn enough love from VHS rentals to spawn 3 more sequels, with each one more wilder and more low budget than the last. And today, Iron Eagle is just a cult classic of 80s action, remembered less for the realism and much more for its attitude. It's cheesy, it's over the top, and totally sincere about it, which is exactly why it works. And finally, from sky-high dogfights, we land in a spy game gone wrong where campus hijinks meet Cold War intrigue. In 1985's Gotcha, Anthony Edwards would star as a college kid whose paintball hobby accidentally turns into real-life espionage. One minute he's winning campus games and fighting for the love of the ladies. The next he's dodging spies and bullets in Europe with Linda Fiorentino alongside him. Now, if you ever wanted proof that the 80s could turn pretty much any concept into a spy thriller, look no further than Gotcha. Anthony Edwards plays Jonathan. He's a college kid that's obsessed with this campus paintball game called Gotcha, and what starts as harmless fun naturally turns into international espionage when he gets tangled up with spies, femme fatales, and government missions in Europe. And that's really the fun of Gotcha and how quickly it can shift gears. One minute Edwards is bumbling through dates and college hijinks. The next, he's dodging bullets in East Berlin. The tonal whiplashes, I think, really are part of the appeal, though. It's tense, it's goofy, and romantic all at once. Linda Fiorentino adds plenty of femme fatale flair, and Edwards plays the reluctant spy role with just enough of a mix of charm and panic. It didn't make huge waves in theaters, but like many on this list, it found a good life on VHS, and for kids who rented it, Gotcha felt like that grown-up adventure movie with just enough comedy to keep it accessible, and today it's a fun nostalgia blast of just Cold War espionage paranoia mashed up with teen comedy energy, and honestly, it's worth a rewatch just for the wild idea that campus paintball could somehow prep you for actual espionage. And that wraps up another episode of Friday Night Rentals. We've laughed at the comedies, marveled at the strange experiments, and maybe even rediscovered a few forgotten treasures hiding on the back of the shelves. Now it's your guys' turn. Let me know which of tonight's picks you remember renting back in the day. If you have some other movies that you just have nostalgic memories of pulling from the VHS shelves at the video store, let me know down in the comments. If you've been enjoying this trip through the golden age of the VHS vaults, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I truly do appreciate all your viewership and all your comments. It really means the world to me. I will see you guys back in the next video coming real soon, and until then, movies never say die.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?